to providing training and employment services to individuals with disabilities. We are one of the largest vocational rehab programs in the country as well. And our vocational rehab services are designed to help job seekers with disabilities obtain competitive integrated employment. We also work with an abundance of community partners throughout the state as well. As you have seen in our website, our mission is employment, independence, and equality. So the eligibility to receive services, there are three main ones. So the first one is you need to have a physical or mental impairment. The second one is you need to require rehab services to prepare, secure, obtain, regain employment. And the third one is the most important one that I have seen just from working with the Department of Rehab, is being available to participate. That means attending intakes, assessments, any trainings or meetings with counselors, meetings with job developers, and interviews and job interviews, and showing up for work as well. Failure to do so can, or the consequences would be delays in services and possibly closing the case unsuccessfully, and how that would affect their work or their ability to work. Now, there's also a little token in there. So if you are a consumer receiving Social Security Administration benefits, such as SSI or SSDI, or have a valid ticket to work, you are presumed eligible to receive DOR services. So what are those services? It includes benefits planning. That means working with a work incentives planner on site to discuss how your benefits will be affected once you begin to work. They'll discuss the whole phase out and just kind of go through it, how you'll be making more money when you work than you were receiving SSI or SSDI. We also provide career assessment and counseling, job search and interview skills, independent living skills, career education and training, and assistive technology. Another important thing that from working with Department of Rehab is informed choice. So what that means is that individuals with disabilities have the opportunity to be active and full partners in their rehabilitation process. So they get to decide what their employment goal is, how long it's going to take them, because it will be ultimately up to them, and also getting employed. So the next topic I want to talk about is the IPE, the Individualized Plan for Employment, which we also call the bread and butter of rehabilitation services. And it's the written plan that lists the job objective and the DOR services that the consumer will receive to reach that employment goal. I've seen about 20 to 40 pages long, IPE goals, and they're very informative, they're very descriptive. It talks about the employment goal, the services and service providers needed to reach that goal, also a timeline, the responsibilities of the counselor, the consumer, and others involved in the IPE. There's an identification of comparable services and benefits. And what that means is, let's say, for example, your employment goal is to be a teacher. That would mean going to college, and the DOR pays for the state of California tuition rates, and the consumer will be responsible for the remaining part. That is if they decide to go to the private school route. Another example of comparable benefits is if they receive Medicaid or any other types of insurance. We would prefer that their assistive technology get paid through Medicaid, such as hearing aids or eyeglasses, for example. Let's see, the next topic would be student services. So this is a little new for the Department of Rehab. It started about 3-4 years ago, where the department wants to focus more on the younger generation, get the students started thinking about what they want to do when they grow up. So student services provides students with disabilities an opportunity to receive those skills to help them pave a path toward an independent and successful future. So this does not require an IPE. In fact, they are presumed eligible, so they're separate from having that vocational goal. So this provides them to have an opportunity to have work experiences. So let's see, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here. So the opportunities for this include exploring the real world, getting hands-on experience, gaining confidence, boosting skills to be more successful at school, work, and in life. And the best part is that we work as a team. So not just with the DOR team, but also with the parents as well. We get the parents involved so they could see how they're each service that they're doing, how they accomplish those. Um, so they're part of that program. The eligibility criteria for this is you have to be between 16 to 21 years old. You have to be enrolled in school. You could be in homeschool or alternative high school programs, and that's fine. And you have to have an IEP, an individualized education plan, a 504 plan, or a disability. So the 5 services that the department provides are job exploration counseling, so figuring out what you want to do when you grow up, job readiness, practice resume writing, identifying skills you already have, online job search, and application and interview skills. Also, post-secondary counseling, which is exploring trade schools, colleges, universities, assisting with the application and financial aid process. Next one is work-based learning experience, which is 100 hours of paid work experience in competitive integrated employment. And it could be somewhere in your neighborhood, working at a grocery store, or working with Goodwill, one of our community partners, or with Ability First, another community partner, to put you in a work setting. And some examples would be working at Petco, a grocery store, at a Goodwill store. I've even heard of jobs like at a car wash as well. As long as they're getting that experience of, learning how to communicate with others, communicate with the public, learning how to count money, how to, manage their money as well once they're making making that money. And the last service is self-advocacy, which includes leadership skills and rights and responsibilities as a youth with a disability, learning the types of accommodations needed for school and then job. And we have them go onto the Job Accommodation Network website to help them navigate what kind of accommodations they would need or they can get in the job or in school.
Sandra,
So let's see. Yes?
yeah, just one question. In regards to, I know you said up to 21 years old that they can apply for the benefit as a student. If the student happens to, say, not go to school for 1 year after graduation or just miss a year, do they still qualify as, for the service if they like say re-enter college or any kind of like school
Yeah,
facility or
as long as they're yeah, if they skip school, if they take a year off after high school and then they go back to school, they could still
Mhm.
qualify for that.
But they must be enrolled first in school before they
Yeah.
can qualify as a student.
Yes. So they, even if it's taking a class at a community college, or even if it's an art class, as long as you're enrolled in some sort of educational setting.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Sorry if I went too fast.
I have a question of the job accommodations. What are some of the accommodations that I think you were just about to talk about it. I don't know. You were talking about how some
Oh,
of the last two are self-advocacy and job accommodations. Is there also like a website that they go for that, or what are the accommodations that are given to these students?
yes. So we have them go onto the JAN website. I think I have it I'll email it to Dr. Kimm at the end. I have an email that I've already compiled with my resources, links, and also some flyers that I put together. But the Job Accommodation Network website will be on there. I worked with various counselors in a support capacity. I participated and conducted intakes and communicated constantly with consumers, and was part of the rehabilitation process. And I watched many of them become successfully employed. I also worked with the student services team in providing those 5 services we discussed. And now my recent role, as of last year, I started as a resources specialist, where I'm a liaison between the community rehab partners and the districts. So I serve 2 different districts, the Greater Los Angeles area and the Los Angeles South Bay districts. So there's 8 resources specialists in the state, and I'm one of them. And those are my 2 areas that I cover. I also ensure that all DOR consumers receive the highest quality services in a safe and accessible facility. So that would mean vendorizing, certifying, and recertifying the community rehab partners, making sure their places are accessible, making sure that they're close to a bus route as well, and also resolving issues at the local level between the district staff and the service providers. And Dr. Kimm had provided me some questions ahead of time to discuss. And see, so the first one is the factors that I think that would help people with disabilities get employed and become independent. So I have a couple here. It would be identifying the resources that are out there, doing the research on the internet, asking questions and asking for help. Also, if the consumer doesn't know, they could start with the Department of Rehab, and our department can direct them wherever they need to go, if we're the correct agency they need to start with, or another agency. Another thing is working closely with counselors, teachers, regional center staff. Next one is being motivated to work. That's also an important one. And the last one I have here is understanding their abilities and capabilities and not just their disability. Because I think people with disabilities always feel that they are missing out because they don't have what it takes, but there's so many other abilities that they have that other people don't have. And that's what they need to focus on, to put that on the resume to make them shine. And the other question that Dr. Kimm asked was, what special education teachers can do to help them before leaving school? So I would say start talking to students about their career choices, short-term, long-term goals, having students identify what their interests and their skills are, what they like, what they don't like, or skills that they currently have. So are they tech savvy? Do they like music? Do they know how to play a musical instrument? Things like that, to have them just thinking about the future. And also, where do they like to shop? Where do they like to eat at? That could also lead to getting a work experience or a job experience at like their local eatery. And also, the California Career Zone is a great resource. I'm also going to link that in the email as well. This is a platform that I use when I worked with the students, and it gives, there's a lot of evaluations for them to do, like little quizzes to try to figure out what kinds of jobs they would be good at. So kind of like a mini Myers-Briggs, and they don't make them too long because I know, everybody's attention span is not that long. So they make it so it's a little bit more fun and interactive for the students. Also, encouraging students to participate in a work experience, like I said, in high school, and to start developing those work skills. And they can do this with the Department of Rehab, through their school, or on their own independently. And let's see, the last question Dr. Kimm asked was, if possible, collaboration between the Department of Rehab and special education. So what I thought of was the Department of Rehab's Education Cooperative Program. So we have several of them throughout the state. So the first one is a college to career, where it's a partnership with select community colleges, and they serve individuals with intellectual disabilities and autism. And this program provides employment and preparation and soft skills training, in addition to some instruction in independent living skills and campus inclusion. So there's select schools that participate in that. TPP, the Transition Partnership Program, this is more for high school students, and it builds partnerships between the select local educational agencies and the Department of Rehab. And a lot of LEUSD schools and also the smaller districts in the LA area participate in that. And then, like Dr. Kimm mentioned, we have the Workability program, which is a collaboration between adult schools and regional occupational program centers. Then we have the Workability 3, which is a collaboration between California community colleges and DOR. And the last one is a Workability 4, which is a collaboration between select California university campuses and the Department of Rehab. Any questions?
I have a question with relating to the university with the partnership. Is the partnership just to like help them enroll and apply and all of that, or do they also help with like financial aid? Does the DOR help with financial aid for the students who want to attend like a university or community college?
Yeah, so if they're a consumer of the Department of Rehabilitation and their IPE goal, their employment goal is to whatever it is, let's say they want to be a school teacher, and if it's in the plan, the department can support the education, but also using the state rates.
Do you have any advice for teachers who are working with students with mild disabilities, essentially disabilities that are hidden, and are more prepared for higher ed than I expected? So essentially, when I plan for my general ed students, I include them as well. But I also need help with like accommodating to their needs when it comes to like writing for like college apps and such. So any advice would be appreciated.
It would be working as a team. That's how when I worked with the students, I worked with mainly the foster youth in group homes, and we worked as a team. I worked with another counselor. We've also had another service coordinator, and we're just working together. And in your case, it may be working with the parents as well, bringing everybody in to work collaboratively.
Consumer that's already receiving services and they already have an IPE in place. Let's say that they all of a sudden are like, okay, I have to move out of state. How does that affect their eligibility? Because I know each state is different when it comes to, how disability rights works.
So in that case, and I've come across that as well as a service coordinator, working with the counselor and the consumer and doing the research in the state that they're going to be moving to, looking at their vocational rehab department and communicating with that department and the local ones where they'll be moving to have their case moved, or at least the plan moved over there. And that way it'll be an easier transition. But definitely communicating with that other state agency. I know I had an experience last year where one of my students, he had just graduated from high school and he was moving to Arizona. He got accepted to a college in Arizona. So we had to move his case over there. So we helped him communicate with and get a counselor, do a phone intake to open the case over there. And it worked out smoothly.
Hi, Sandra. First of all, thank you for coming out and taking this time to talk to us. My question is, how does career counseling and services look like right now during the COVID-19 pandemic?
So it would look just like this in a virtual platform. It's very rare that I've heard of where they're still doing face-to-face. And if they do have, keep their distance. But it has been challenging in everyone. For the state, for the clients, for students as well. But yeah, it has really changed, and this may be our new normal, but it's also a convenient way for parents who weren't able to show up for meetings like this to be there, to participate. So it could be a good, it could be a bad, but at least it's a little bit more accessible for people to do.
Hi, Sandra. I have a question. Actually, I have two. My first question is, what services or supports are implemented to help individuals with multiple disabilities or with individuals with a disability and who are experiencing mental health issues?
So we have our counselors are very experienced in working with multiple disabilities. Um, the the plan, the IPE goes at the pace of the consumer. So if their disability is affecting them to delaying the services or delaying their training, and that's okay as long as they're being patient, they're being consulted with their doctors. We also want our consumers to, we don't want to overstress anybody. So we always abide by whatever the doctors recommend, whatever the psychiatrists, psychologists also recommend as well. But yeah, like I said, our counselors are very experienced and with assisting with multiple and all kinds of disabilities. So what that is, our cooperative programs are kind of like the Workability and the TPP, where the state already has a set number of cases they're going to accept from their mental health or the schools, and they're contracted already. So we do get a lot of consumers from the mental health population.
Thank you. Sandra, I have another question. For students with a little bit more significant disability, their employment issue is going to regional center or still working with you guys?
So we work with the regional center. So if they're already regional center consumers, they would be working with them first, and then they would be referred to the Department of Rehabilitation under the supported employment cases. The Department of Rehab provides supported employment where they go out and into the work setting and competitive integrated employment. They also receive job coaching. It's for a certain amount of time. Once they phase out of the job coaching, the funding goes back to the regional center. So we work together.
Sandra, at what age are they referred by the regional center to the Department of Rehab?
It would be that, from what I've seen, after high school, after they're done with school, because they would be going into the work setting.
Okay.
So either 18 or, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish, sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say, because some students stay till the age of 22. So after the age of 22, they'll come in Department of Rehab. So it just really depends on the individual.
Okay, thank you. And I have another question. I know you mentioned something about how consumers who need like eyeglasses or hearing aid, if they have like Medicaid or some other type of insurance, that they go through them first. But let's say if a consumer who is interested with like maybe the mobility program and so they're consumers, so they qualify for DOR services, are there any cost associated with getting the mobility services? Like let's say they don't have any like Medicaid, will the DOR pay for their their expenses, like health expenses?
Yeah, so the Department of Rehab will support whatever cost they cannot pay for, and including mobility as well. And I've also seen consumers get their vehicles modified for them to use. So that there's a mobility office in the city of Bell, also that provides those services. So yes, absolutely. Whatever the consumer cannot pay out of pocket, the Department of Rehab will support.
Sandra, this is Stacy, and my question is in regards to, I know that you said that you have supported programs, but do you also do sheltered work programs?
No, that's not what Department of Rehab does. So we mainly focus on employment. So, but if they do need those resources, the Department of Rehab can help provide them.
My question is because I work with students that are more profound, and they do not use words to speak, and they're high school aged. So I was wondering if have you ever seen or had any consumers that fit that eligibility that were placed in a job through the Department of
I
Rehabilitation?
haven't I haven't personally. It could be that we did have a consumer through the regional center where they worked in a work activity program, possibly. But I haven't seen anyone like that from my experience.
Right. So Department of Rehab work with regional center, but so Sandra was talking about activity center. That one will be probably more funded by the regional center. So that's a possibility. But
Mhm.
I think Department of Rehab is more the supportive employment and competitive employment.
So we're phasing out of those work activity programs and also group placements and focusing more on individualized placements with supported employment.
Any other questions, guys?
For the job coaching, is there a limited amount of times that they can get the support? Like, say they get the job coaching, they get a job, and for whatever reason they lose that job, restart like
If
at a
they
new
do lose
place.
that job, yeah, no, they'll start a new job, a new job will start all over again with their job coaching. So let's say
Okay.
they started in a job and worked and were already starting to phase out, but they lost that job, then that job is done. That placement is closed, and the service provider puts them in another placement. They just start new, fresh, and starting with those job coaching hours again.
And in regards to those job coaching hours, is there a limit of how many coaching hours they can get, or just, or what tells you how long they go or not?
Yeah, so they have to phase out every month, and then for a certain amount of time, I believe it's 18 months. Don't quote me on that. But there's a certain amount of time that they should be phasing out. And once they phase out and they're more independent, they go back to regional center for funding. But I mean, there is a goal to phase out, but each case is individualized. You know, some people, some consumers may need more time, and the counselor could justify that and add more hours, or the consumer may be very independent, and they'll use up less. They may need less job coaching hours. So it all depends on it's all in a case by case basis.
Okay.
Sandra, this is Christina. So after they get a job, and then how many more the month or days you before you close the case?
So once they get placed, they get placed under retention. So I believe it's 60 days, 60 or 90 days. I'm sorry, I
Right,
haven't
right.
worked with the cases in over a year. So it's either 60 or 90 days for retention, and during that time, the department still supports anything else that they would need to keep that job. Once they finish that retention time, then the case will be successfully closed.
Sandra, I have a question. I've heard people not being qualified or not being eligible to receive employment services. What would be reasons for an individual to not be eligible?
So there's several. It could mean that one, their disability prevents them from working. Let's say they have back problems and they're not able to stand for a certain amount of time, or whatever their disability is, will make it worse when they start working. And we don't want that. We don't want anything to make your disability or for you to harm yourself. The other one could be that you have so many doctor's appointments that you're not able to participate. And we've had that where the cases are a little bit more severe, and if they can't participate, then they'll have to, apply at a later time.
Okay.
And another reason that they're denied services is they don't have a disability.
Yeah, I asked Sandra, spend time about, 40 minutes or plus minus. So, oh my God, you answered almost every question that we ask. So that's great. Anybody else has a last question or?
Can I ask one more question?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
like all the support that's kind of explained on the website, it seems like, wow, why would anyone not reach out and get the support? But at the same time, I feel like there might be underlying skills that a lot of the individuals with profound disabilities would not have. Um, are there underlying skills that require individuals to have in order to be supported by DOR to receive training for and to find and keep employment?
No, I mean, I've seen clients come in that haven't worked since the 80s. You know, they 1980s. I'm talking about, not their age. They've been out of the workforce for whatever reason it is. We don't, you know, it's none of my business, but they want to go back into the workforce. Let's say they want to be a security guard. So what does it take to be a security guard? That they would need a high school diploma. What if they never had a high school diploma? Then the department could help support, get their high school diploma or GED, all the training that they need, the background check, also the classes that they need to pass the guard security guard test. Um, the department supports all of that, whatever it is they need to be successful, and it all goes back to informed choice. This is what they want to do. This is a job that they decided they want to do. It's a short-term goal, which is fine. Um, Department can help with that. So it doesn't matter if they've been out of touch, even if they have to go back to college and community college and learn basic, you know, computer skills. 'Cause a lot of them that I saw never even used a computer or never used a phone, or some of them were formerly incarcerated and have been, you know, out of touch with the world. So the department definitely does help with that.
Melissa, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just heard you say about incarceration, like people that were incarcerated. So I have a question about that. So let's say like some like consumers on like parole, or you know, so does that affect them being eligible, or the Department of Rehab is okay with them being on parole or probation? Obviously parole is more serious.
As long as their probation or parole officer knows that they're applying for Department of Rehab services, and it's okay with them to be on the job. And it also depends on whatever felonies they had, and the department will work around whatever it is that whatever type of, you know, felony or misdemeanor that they previously had. We don't discriminate, you know, as long as they have a disability and it's a proven disability that they have, we work around that.
All right.
Quick question.
Stacy.
Mhm.
Sorry. When you say they have to have a disability for eligibility, do you also include like just if they only have a learning disability?
Yes, that is included.
Yes. So everybody had all the questions answered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, class.
All right.
Good
Well,
luck.
yeah,
Have
thank you
fun.
so
Bye-bye.
much. Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.